Hey everybody, what is good? Jacob back here with you for another edition of the PickupTest.com and Electric String Player. And today I want to share with you a really cool trick that I came across while experimenting with my Tone Dexter and my Helix that I think will be really helpful for those of you out there who are using a similar rig. Let's check it out. In previous videos, we've talked about using the effects loops on the Helix to change the percentage of Tone Dexter blended into each particular preset. For example, using a lot less Tone Dexter on pizzicato passages where we want that raw punchy pickup tone, and then blending in a lot more of the Tone Dexter effect for our bowed patches where we want a bit more air and distance from the instrument for a more natural arco sound. And that approach has worked really well for me. But I got to thinking, what if I could actually use more of a blender's approach using only my Tone Dexter? What? Well, let me explain. You see, when we're blending with a wet-dry mix with the Tone Dexter, we're essentially sending both signals through the same pipeline. And so we don't really have independent control over what parts of the pickup sound we want to hear and what parts of the microphone sound we want to hear. So there's no independent frequency control. And this is really different from a blending situation where most people using a pickup and a mic to avoid frequencies canceling each other out and to get the most useful tone on stage will often be just using, again, the high frequencies from the mic and the lower frequencies from the pickup. So I got to thinking, could I do something like that using just my Tone Dexter and my Helix? And I want to show you how I figured out how to do it and let you hear the results for yourself. So let's get started. So in order to make this simple and really easy to understand, I thought it would be best to show you what I'm doing here in my HX Edit software. This will be especially helpful for those of you that are visual people. So what I've got here is just a basic patch, and as you can see, there's nothing going on. I've just got my input and output. There's a little loop here that I'll soon engage to make just a quick C major scale using my Yamaha SVC 110. And here you've got the effects loop. In other words, this is going out to the Tone Dexter and then back finally to the output, and I'll be going just right into my apogee converters, no extra effects or anything added. Now if I click on this effects loop, you'll see right here it says mix, and that's at 60% right now. In other words, I'm sending 40% of my signal, just my raw pickup tone, right to the main output. So I've got 60% Tone Dexter here and 40% raw sound. And this has been my main kind of setting for most of my arco patches. No matter what cello I'm playing with, I find about 60% Tone Dexter gives me enough air and realism, and that 40% blend allows me to get enough cut for the sound to be useful live. And I'll play that for you in a second. You can kind of hear how that sounds. Now, with this second blend test here, if I click here, you'll notice that I've got a patch that looks real similar, but I've got a little EQ here, and this module is actually turned off right now, but I just wanted to show this to you. So with the HX, and you can also do this with a lot of DAW software if you're recording, I can do this. And what I've done basically is I've split the signal. See, so now there's one part, half of my cello signal is going this way, and the other half of it is going down this way. And right now it's bypassing the Tone Dexter, right? Now, what I can do that's so cool with the HX is I can decide here, if I click on this little split point, you see this is the point where it's the signal is splitting into two, what type of split I want. Now, I can split it just AB, 50-50. I can set it up as a Y split. And I can also set it up as
a crossover split. Now what that means is I can choose what frequency range, in other words, like what above what note I want the sound to be going to the Tone Dexter, and then everything else below that will go down here and bypass the Tone Dexter. In other words, just be my raw pickup sound. And again, this is very, very similar to the setup that people might be using when they're blending a mic and a pickup, keeping their raw pickup down here and the mic up here, and really emphasizing the low notes with the pickup and the high notes for the microphone. And this is a great opportunity to learn kind of where your frequencies are. I always recommend that for any electric string player. It's really important for EQing and dialing in your sound. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the frequency 160. So obviously 220 is our A. And I found at around 160 or 170, a lot of the time, things can get really, really boomy and intense, particularly with a microphone sound or with a microphone. So I'm going to randomly here put everything under 160 hertz is going to go past the Tone Dexter. And I'm going to keep the Tone Dexter at about 60% blended in this effects loop. Because once we get above that, it's a little too washed out. But maybe I'll let you hear that as well. So now for this test, I'm going to put in a loop into my looper here that you can see so that it's the exact same performance over and over again. And I'm just going to play a quick C major scale. And again, this is just with my Yamaha SVC 110 cello going into the Tone Dexter. Let's And just so you can really hear the wave map by itself, I'm going to set this to 80% blend. So this is going to be a lot of Tone Dexter. And I think you'll hear this sound. It's pretty warm, but it's a little bit distant and washed out for live use. Let's hear the loop. Okay, now let's try that same loop at 60%. This is really similar to the foundation of my tone that I use for most of my arco patches. Of course, I add some EQ and reverb and stuff as well, but just to give you a reference point here. Cool. So that was a 60-40 straight mix sound, right? Now, let's hear what we get when we do our split and just make sure the crossover. Okay, very, very cool. So now here's our crossover with the effects loop still at 60% up here. But everything below 160, I should say, going straight to the pickup. See if you can hear a difference. right, guys. Well, thanks for checking this out. I hope that that gives you some inspiration for helping to dial in a useful sound, particularly if you're using a rig like I am, or if you're trying to use the Tone Dexter or the VSound 2 in a DAW or recording type setting. Tricks like this can be really helpful. It's also really cool to know that you can use some of these microphone pickup blending techniques even in a situation where essentially you're just using the output of a single pickup. In this case, I'm using a solid body electric cello and I'm blending a virtual mic and pickup signal together, which kind of blows me away too. It's kind of, we're definitely living in the future, guys. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. If you have a question or comment about this test or anything else we're doing, please leave it below. It helps to support the channel, get the word out about what we do. We are not monetized or sponsored in any way, so we really appreciate your support. Thanks.